Good evening, Gauteng. It's so great to be with you in this wonderful province that's soon to be a DA-led province. And it's great to be with you, Mr. Mayor, in your wonderful city of Tshwane with all these beautiful Democrats this evening, because when Pretoria works, South Africa works. It's such a privilege to be with all of you Democrats this evening. Dis wonderlik om vanaand in Pretoria te wees vir die heel eerste aand van ons landwye toer. As you would have already noticed, this tour is unlike any other political event that South Africa has ever seen. It's got music, it's got live entertainment, and it's got speeches from some of the most dedicated freedom fighters that you will ever meet in South Africa. And we're traveling around the country in those big trucks. Did you see the big truck outside? There's 3 of those big trucks, and we're traveling across the length and breadth of this beautiful country to take our message of hope, of change, and of a better future to every corner of our beautiful country. And tonight, I'm going to go behind the headlines with you. I'm going to go behind the headlines. Together, Democrats, we're going to strip away all the noise and all the fluff, and we're going to look at the real choices that face all of us in this important election, less than 50 days away. But above all, this rescue tour is about hope. It's about hope. And boy, I think we need some hope in South Africa right now, don't we? And that's exactly what I'm here to deliver. I'm going to share with you a new vision for this beautiful country that we believe South Africa can be. How we, as the citizens, can unite around a common vision, and for us to be able to achieve that vision. But Democrats, for such a vision to be credible, for hope to be practical and real, we need to start by understanding the root cause of the problems we face. And in my job as leader of the opposition, I get to travel across the length and breadth of South Africa. I'm privileged to see the huge beauty of our land and the potential of the amazing people in South Africa. But especially in recent years, despite our rich resources, despite the rich endowments and the optimism that met our fight for freedom in the country, I get the sense that this has all been replaced by a new feeling. It's a new feeling. It's a feeling of despair. In Butterworth in the Eastern Cape, I recently experienced that despair as a husband, but also as the father of 3 young girls. When I visited a community where a single mother had ended the lives of her 3 children and then had taken her own life, because she could no longer afford to feed her family. She mixed rat poison with the last little bit of food that they had in the house, and she fed it to her children before she hung herself. She was only found days later when the loan shark, whom she had been borrowing money from to try and feed her family, came knocking on that door looking for his money to be paid back. This broke my heart. But sadly, this is one unimaginable tragedy in a country drowning in despair. And the root cause of this despair is just up the road from us, in the union buildings. That is the root cause of the despair in our country. Because from the top of that hill, the ANC looks down on the suffering of the people of South Africa. A country that they've condemned 40% of our citizens to languish in unemployment, where 7 out of 10 of our young people cannot find work. A country without reliable electricity and water. A country where 84 people are murdered every single day. And our mothers and our daughters and our grandmothers do not feel safe on the streets of South Africa. This is the despair that we live in. And this is despair caused by the betrayal of the corrupt ANC. But my friends, this is where the first glimmer of hope comes in that I want to share with you this evening. Because even though it's taken 30 years, the ANC's time has finally run out. The people's patience has run out. Now, during the 2021 local government elections, the ANC lost the outright majority it needs to stay in power. You see, any party that wants to govern South Africa on its own needs 50% plus 1 in order to be able to form a government. Now, even though 2021 was a municipal rather than a national election, when you add up the ANC's results from there, they only were able to reach 47%. And since 2021, the good news is that their vote has been going down and down and down every single day. The latest opinion poll from the Brenthurst Foundation measures support for the ANC at just 39%. Today, the Social Research Foundation released a poll with a similar number. The same poll measures support for the DA at 27%. That's good news. That's hope. Now, you may be asking, what do all these percentages mean? What does the maths tell us? The maths tells us that for the first time in 30 years, the next election results are not a foregone conclusion, and that there's everything to play for in this election. In every previous election, we all knew the ANC was going to win. We just needed to work out by how much. So the first bit of hope and good news this evening is that those days are long gone. The ANC will not get a majority in this next election because you, the people, are going to teach the corrupt ANC a lesson that they will never forget. But the story doesn't end there. Because now that we know the ANC's majority is on the way out, we even now need to know and ask ourselves a new question. What will come after the ANC? Because the one thing South Africa can't afford in this election is to get rid of the ANC and then bring in a government that is even worse. And the one thing that will seal South Africa's fate of doom would be if we end up with a national coalition between the RET faction in the ANC, the EFF, and Mr. Zuma's new party, the MKP. And the Brenthurst poll shows that MK is already polling at 13% nationally. It means that they're going to be the third largest party in the country. The EFF is only in fourth place with 10%. Ladies and gentlemen, this doomsday coalition is a clear and present danger to the democratic future of our country. And it is taking shape as we sit here tonight in this hall. Just last week, the leader of the EFF said very clearly that they will give their votes to the ANC on 3 conditions. Condition 1, Floyd Shivambu, the VBS looter, must be made the Minister of Finance. 2, that your property must be expropriated without compensation. And 3, that our banks, our mines, and our Reserve Bank and industries must be nationalized. Do we want that in South Africa? I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound good to me. Because while some people are still in denial, and some people are only waking up now to this risk of an ANC, EFF, MK doomsday coalition, this is not news to us. It's not news to us. Wanneer jy dra 'n blouhemp, is jy slim. Because we saw this coming a mile away. And those of you who are with me on the Congress floor in April last year were there when I warned about the risk of this doomsday coalition and what it would mean for South Africa. We were the first party with the foresight to warn South Africa what was coming. And just like we were the first people to warn the country about what would happen if we didn't stop Zuma, what would happen with cadre deployment. And we've been fighting against these things ever since. But a year ago, I also knew, Democrats, that the best way to prevent and combat a government between the ANC and the EFF, and more recently now MK, was to form a strong counterweight by uniting the opposition into one strong bloc. And that's why when I warned about the doomsday last year, I also made the announcement about the Moonshot Pact. Well, that's now the MultiParty Charter. And over the past year, 11 leaders from 11 different parties have sat together on a weekly basis and a bi-weekly basis to put aside our differences and to start planning about how we can make South Africa a better place. And that gives me hope. Does it give you hope? I'm hopeful about that because we adopted a joint mission of a new government, a government for an inclusive and prosperous South Africa based on opportunity, freedom, and security for all of our citizens. We adopted a set of principles about how it would work. We've set in place policies and plans about how we're going to get things right in South Africa. And the recent creation of the MKP shows us that we were right to unite the opposition and prepare the country to safeguard our country's future. And the result of all of these developments, is simple. In this election, when you cut out all the noise, you disregard all the posters, you don't listen to the adverts, this election is a clear binary choice. Binary choice means you've got one option on the one hand and another option on the other. In this election, we have a binary choice between two different futures. On the one hand is a future under the doomsday coalition, including parties like the ANC, the EFF, and MK. And this is a future, mark my words, Democrats, where South Africa will rapidly descend into chaos we see in other countries that have adopted radical policies. Venezuela, not a great place to be. Zimbabwe, not a great place to be. Because wherever those radical policies are applied, they bring hunger, they bring suffering, and they bring unemployment. Those who have the means will leave the country, and those who don't will be trapped in a hell under Malema, Zuma, and Mashatile. That is the choice. But the other possible future for us is a new government under the multi-party charter, with this DA as a strong anchor tenant, bringing our experience, our good track record of government, our great people, and our record of accountability to the table. And in this future, our country starts down the road to a more inclusive, a more prosperous country that embraces the private sector to unleash millions of jobs for all of our people, with zero tolerance for crime and corruption, and with a commitment to destroy poverty in a generation. That sounds a lot better to me. That sounds a lot better to me. Do you want the doomsday? Or do you want the multi-party charter? That's the one we want. And let's be clear about one thing. And I want to make this very clear tonight. Cyril Ramaphosa has failed to do any of this because he is a coward and cannot stand up to the people in his own party. He will never create millions of new jobs, but I will. He will never end load shedding and water shedding, but I will. He'll never put the state capture Bosasa crooks in jail, but I will. So forget about all the noise. In this election, there are two choices: doomsday or the MPC, and that is the reality. But there's one complicating factor in all of this, Democrats. Because like in any environment where there are two stark choices, there are always people who know that they can never win. So instead they seek to play the two sides off against each other. And this has led to the emergence of some of these small mercenary parties that exploit the binary situation so they can try and get the best deal by pitting the multi-party charter against the doomsday coalition. And what they know is that when you split the opposition vote, it gives them more bargaining power with the doomsday people and the MPC. And the best example of these mercenary small parties is the Patriotic Alliance. The PA has sold out the opposition in 8 different municipalities around the country. And as we speak tonight in this hall, they are destroying places like Knysna, like Johannesburg, like Ekurhuleni, in their dirty alliance with the ANC and the EFF. And in Johannesburg, I'm glad Belinda's here. Stand up, Belinda. Where's Belinda? There she is, Belinda. Our leader in Johannesburg. We are taking the Patriotic Alliance and the city to court. Because what have they done? They've helped the ANC and the EFF misuse the people's money for bodyguards and cars for themselves. While the people live in fear of criminals, they voted for themselves 2 new bodyguards each for their councillors. The PA's MMCs for housing and transport will each get 4 VIP bodyguards funded with taxpayer money. And when our people can't afford fuel, have you seen the price of fuel this week? Have you seen it? Our people can't afford fuel, but these MMCs will get 2 new vehicles paid for by the people. And just this past weekend, it was also exposed where the media published a recording of Gayton McKenzie bribing our DA councillors to cross the floor. Gaan luister self na die opnames. In sy eie woorde vertel Gayton McKenzie hoe hy van plan is om die mense wat vir hom stem op te offer aan die ANC en Julius Malema se EFF. Alles net vir mag en geld in sy eie sak. Let me tell you why. Because they are selfish. They only care about themselves. and they don't care about anybody else. But we must also be careful of 'n ander kommerwekkende verskynsel. En dis 'n proses van klein partye wat obsessief fokus op die Wes-Kaap. En hulle doel is om slaag te raak van die DA in die Wes-Kaap en hulle hande te kry op die enigste provinsie in ons land wat nog werk. Maar in die proses het hulle die mense in die noorde van die land heeltemal versaak. As 'n party dag en nag aangaan oor die Wes-Kaap en selfs aanhoudend praat oor die afstigtiging van die Wes-Kaap, hoe help dit die mense van Pretoria? Hoe help dit die mense hier in Eerste Rus? Hoe help dit die mense van Centurion? Of is hierdie Suid-Afrikaners minder belangrik vir hierdie partye? Now let me tell you, as proud as I am of the DA's record in the Western Cape, I'm proud to be a leader of a party that's doing so well. I'm here to tell all of you tonight that the DA will never turn our back on the rest of the people of South Africa. We care just as much for you as we care about the people in the Western Cape. But be careful of parties that have given up on people who live north of the Hex River because they cannot be trusted with your vote. And to show you that while these parties have given up on you, we haven't, I'm making a pledge to you tonight that we will use any powers we get if you vote us into a national government. Can you do that? That we will use those powers to bring a pipeline of excellent delivery that we've achieved in the Western Cape into Gauteng to rescue the people here from corruption, from maladministration and bad government. But this brings me to another point I want to make. We've also seen from places like Johannesburg that coalition governments don't work, where the vote is split amongst too many small parties. Coalitions work best when they have a strong anchor tenant to hold them accountable, to ensure that the government is stable. And in this mission, I am joined by a team of committed and excellent DA candidates from right here in Gauteng. A big party with the right people to get things done. And Solly, I invite you and the candidates to come and join me up on the stage. Let's give them a round of applause. This is our blue team. This is our blue team. This is our team that is going to rescue South Africa. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there are 5 things. There's been a lot of speeches tonight. There are 5 things I want you to remember. You can forget everything else I've said this evening if you promise to remember these 5 things. 1, do not vote for an opposition party if they're not committed to the MultiParty Charter, because these are wolves in sheep's clothing. They will take your vote and they will give it to the EFF, the ANC and the Doomsday Coalition. Number 2, do not vote for parties that have given up on the north of the country because they focused only on the Western Cape. Number 3, do vote for the DA if you want a strong anchor party at the heart of a stable government to rescue South Africa and rescue Gauteng. Number 4, do vote for the DA if you want a strong anchor party at the heart of a stable new government under Premier Solly Mzimanga. And number five, do vote for the DA if you want a big, strong party that can fight back against the ANC, EFF, and MK wherever they raise their head in South Africa. It's a vote to rescue South Africa. It's a vote to rescue Gauteng. And it's a vote to stop the Doomsday Coalition. And so it is a win, win, win. What is it? It's a win, win, win. What is it? It's a win, win, win. And win is what we're going to go out of this hall and do over the next 50 days. Because in the past we voted to form the strongest possible opposition. But in this election, we are voting to win. We are voting to win. We are voting to defeat the ANC. We're voting to keep the radicals out of office. So, my invitation to all of you is come and be part of this winning team. Because together, we can win. Let's give hope a chance. Don't miss out. Be a part of the winning team that's here to rescue South Africa. Because in this election, the stakes are too high to stay at home. And now is our time. And together, we can rescue South Africa.